Most of the how-tos on the web about cleaning disk tell you to do something drastic, like using toothpaste over the entire disk. This video assumes that the disk is very important to you and starts with more conservative methods. Assuming this is a disk that you purchased, like a movie, once you get it to read properly, make a copy before something else goes wrong. Also, try cleaning the drive head and/or try a couple of different drives. Some have better lasers than others. When I run into problem disks the most is when I rent disk. Most of the time it's just junk on the disk that's making it hard to read. Most of that can be cleaned off with a little dish soap and water. Be careful not to get the paper label wet on Redbox or Blockbuster disk. For some reason they didn't make those waterproof. Then use a little rubbing alcohol to get anything off that the dish soap didn't remove. Dry it and give it a try. If the disk still doesn't work but you don't see any bad scratches, the actual surface that the laser writes on may be damaged. Hold the disk up to a light and see if you can see through any holes in the disk. On some disks, especially CDs, the surface that the laser writes on is actually under the factory printed on label. It's almost more like a paint on top of the disk. Some types of disc aren't affected too much by scratches on the label side, but on some, if you scratch through the label side of the disc, there may be no way to easily repair this type of damage. If that isn't the case, and assuming this is an important disc with something on it you really need to recover, start with a very fine jeweler's rouge. If you haven't polished a disc before, I suggest you find a similar disc and practice. Some discs are made of harder plastics than others. You can order jeweler's rouge on the internet, or you can find it in some hardware stores. If you don't want to wait that long, baking soda is something that most people have around the house that should work okay if you don't use too much pressure. Look at the disc and try to identify the scratches that are most likely causing your problem. Put a very small amount of polishing compound on a clean, soft cloth and rub just in the problem areas. If you're using baking soda, I like to put a little dish soap on a damp rag and then add just a little baking soda. It is best to rub from the center to the outside like the spokes of a bike tire, but sometimes that isn't practical and you have to rub in small circles. Clean the disc and try it out. If it still doesn't work, polish it again, this time with a little more pressure. If you still can't get the disc to work and you see major scratches that obviously aren't coming out, try a compound that's a little bit more abrasive, like toothpaste. Some toothpaste are very abrasive, so be careful. Test it out on a similar junk disc first if you're not sure. If one of the products you try turns out to be too abrasive and you think you put too many fine scratches on the disc, go back to a finer product and polish those scratches out. If you know the disc is really in bad shape, you can save yourself a little work by using something like a Dremel. This is something you definitely want to practice on a junk disc first. If you use a Dremel, use the slowest speed, very light pressure, and be sure to keep it moving so you don't overdo it in one place.